so this is a good time. And why don't I go ahead and tell you who's next. Welcome to the stage, Dave Bleeden.
Will be on right after me, so those who can't see her. So when I was 16, my mom decided that my family should go on a cruise. Now, I don't know why she thought this was a great idea. I have 3 siblings, a twin brother, 2 younger siblings, and we fought like cats and dogs. Just did not get along. If you left us alone in a room, one of us would be hog-tied in a dog crate. We were really, really bad. But nonetheless, my mom was getting divorced from my dad at the time, just going through a very difficult period. And so we thought, you know what, let's just roll with it. Just give her this vacation. So we flew down to Orlando, and we boarded one of the biggest boats I've ever seen in my life, Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas. And my mom gets a glass of champagne with a raspberry in it, and we get apple cider, and we set off for a week in the Caribbean. And right away, I was miserable. I've never really liked nautical things. I'm not really a big fan of boats. And my siblings, as I predicted, were really, really annoying right from the get-go. And I had this really crazy Jufro at the time, and with the humidity, my Jufro was out of control. And so we set off, and it's day 2, and I'm doing my thing, just moping around one of the decks, that had a pool in it. And out of the corner of my eye, I see him hoisting himself up out of the pool. And he was a Ken doll come to life, which at the time was my fantasy. With short blonde hair, very blue eyes, and a very tan, sleek body that made me think if you shot him out of a cannon, he would just keep on going forever. And he hoists himself out of the pool, and he's in a hot pink Speedo, no joke. And he gets out of the pool, he's dripping with water, and this other guy, also in a Speedo, hands him a towel. And this other guy was a little bit older, also attractive, but in this like grease monkey mechanic type of way. And I quickly realized this was the first gay couple I've ever seen in my life. I grew up in a very sheltered community in Toronto, Canada, for those who don't know. I mean, they have gay people, I'm sure, but in my 16 years, I just never come across them. You know, maybe I've heard of like a friend's older brother's neighbor who was gay, but I never met a gay person. And now they're like these 2 full-fledged, real gay people on this boat in Speedos. So I was obsessed. And from then on, the rest of the cruise became, you know, following these 2 guys around, being this creepy stalker, while at the same time distancing myself from my family, because I didn't want my family, who I was now to, knowing that I was perving on these guys. And I quickly established their routine. These guys were early risers. They would get up at 7 in the morning. They'd have a healthy breakfast, egg white omelets, glasses of orange juice, and then they'd go to the gym for very intense workouts. And with one of these stalking visits, I looked at the logbook at the gym just to get their names, and I saw their signatures. Their names were Bruce and Lance. And after working out for a bit, they'd go and they'd lounge by the pool together and just soak up the sun. And I don't know if you guys have ever been on cruises before, but part of the cruise experience is that you go on these excursions where the boat docks in a certain port, and people get off the boat and they go, you know, zip lining in the rainforest or kayaking with sea turtles. And I hated these excursions because they were blackout periods where I had no idea what Bruce and Lance were up to. I just was like conjuring up this idea of them like swimming to some deserted beach and then rolling around in the surf, giving each other blowjobs without me. And so it's halfway through the cruise at this point, and I'm just like stalking these guys, and I want to make it happen. You know, I was a virgin, but this was like going to be my time. This was my moment. And halfway through the cruise, I passed this hot tub, and this hot tub like could maybe fit 8 people, but there were 15 people crammed in there. And I'm kind of just looking at it, and I see Lance at the other end of this hot tub, and he is by himself. Bruce is nowhere in sight. This was my moment. So I rip off my t-shirt, I throw myself into the hot tub, and everyone's grumbling because like another fucking person in this overcrowded hot tub. And I look at Lance, and we make eye contact, and he smiles at me, and I lick my lips suggestively, and the only way that I know how is he's probably like... And I'm looking at the shirt, you know, the bubbling water and all the tangled limbs, and I'm trying to mentally calculate exactly where his leg is under the water. I'm inching my foot towards where I think his leg is going to be, and I connect with flesh, and I'm playing fancy with him, and he puts his head back at the end of the hot tub, and just like leans back in utter bliss. And I'm a lead pipe in my swim trunks, so out in charge. And I'm playing footsie with him, and we do this for a couple more minutes, and then he gets out of the hot tub and just walks off. He's still got like the hot tub foam on his body. So now I know Lance definitely wants me, like this cruise is really, really my moment. But I can't make it happen. I'm like stalking them, but I need to find my way to opportunity. And the time is running out. It's the second last day of the cruise. And I'm wandering on the decks, trying to find them. And I'm on one of the upper decks, which is a little bit more deserted. And there's this row of deck chairs, nothing else. And at the end of this row of deck chairs is Lance and Bruce lying there with their shades on. So I walk, situate myself a couple of deck chairs away from them. I didn't want to be right next to them because I thought that would be really creepy. Even though I've been creepy this whole cruise. And I'm a couple of deck chairs away, and I hike up my swimsuit to try to make myself look sexy or exposing the white of my thighs. And I take a ball of water and I pour it all over my head to try to tame my Jufro, to give myself like this tasseled look, box look. And I'm lying there just preening, and I was waiting for Bruce and Lance to notice me. And sure enough, after a couple of minutes, Bruce sits up a bit and he looks at me and he goes like this. And I walk over and my heart is thumping in my chest. And I'm so excited and I approach their chairs and Bruce goes, "Hi, my name is Bruce." He's got this deep, manly voice. And then he taps Lance on the shoulder who'd been sleeping behind the shades. And Lance wakes up and notices me and goes, "Hi, I'm Lance!" And his theater queen, very feminine, but I didn't care. I was so into both of them. And we had this conversation, which I can only equate to this out-of-body experience where I'm not really paying attention to what's being said, except at the very end where Bruce goes, "Why don't you come back to our room, a little bit before dinner, 6 o'clock, suite 307. And so I'm like, "Sure!" And I walk off, and I'm so excited. And for the rest of the day, I'm just looking at my watch, just watching the hours go by. And it's 5 o'clock now. It's getting closer to at the time that I'm supposed to meet Bruce and Lance. I'm like, these two guys have invited me to their room. Like, clearly they want to have drinks, so I can't show up empty-handed. So I'm like concocting this plan in my head, like stealing money out of my mom's purse so I can go to the duty-free on board and buy an expensive bottle of alcohol. But like, even if I got there, I didn't have a fake ID. And so I just wasn't sure how I was going to do this. And 6 o'clock comes, and I show up at suite 307, and I knock on the door, and the door opens, and there's Lance and Bruce. And I was kind of hoping they would be in tidy whities or something really provocative like that. But instead, they were like in linen pants, pressed polo shirts, very classy. And I hand them a bottle of Diet Coke, and I say, "I'm sorry, this is the best I could do." And Lance goes, "Please, we don't drink anyways." And they invite me into their room. And it's one of those cruise rooms which, it's very, very small, like all the furniture is made from Muppets. And I sit on the couch, and I'm kind of hoping that they're going to squeeze into the small couch next to me, but instead they sit on these two chairs facing me, and Bruce leans over a little bit, and he goes, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why would you ask that?" And Lance goes, "Well, we noticed you like to alienate yourself on, the decks on this cruise, not really hang out with your family, are they okay with everything?" And I said, "Okay with what?" And Bruce goes, "The fact that you're into dudes, because if you want to talk about it, we're here for that." And I'm sitting on the couch, and I realize, these two guys did not want to have sex with me. This was an intervention. And I go from being so erotically charged to being mortified in the span of 5 seconds. And the rest of the conversation is one of those discussions where they're asking me questions, and I'm giving them one-word answers, which really isn't a foothold for anything. And we're talking for another 10 minutes, and it's just so incredibly awkward. I just want to get out of there. And while I'm sitting on the couch, I'm also thinking to myself, if I wasn't playing with footsie with Lance that one time, who the fuck was I with that time? And finally, after this very, very embarrassing 10 minutes, I leave their room, and as I'm walking down the corridor, I get a little teary-eyed because I really want that to happen. And it was obviously the opposite of that. And I meet my family for dinner, and they had no idea what was going on because this was all my world that I was trying to keep separated from them. And we have this dinner, and I go to sleep early. And I don't know if you guys have ever been obsessed with something or somebody, but there's this amazing thing when your obsession breaks, where it's actually an incredible, incredible relief. And so I woke up the next day, and instead of being mortified or distraught over the fact that I never got to see what was underneath those Speedos, I actually felt amazing. And I was able to enjoy the cruise for the first time in a week. And because I hadn't spent any time with my family for the last 7 days, it was actually really nice, being reacquainted with them, and my siblings weren't really that annoying. And it's the last night of this cruise, and there's a fireworks display going on, and I'm standing there with my family, and these beautiful, beautiful fireworks are going off. And I feel this arm wrapped around my shoulders. I turn around, it's Lance and Bruce. And I think to myself, fuck, this is the worst cruise ever. Not only did these guys not want to have sex with me, but now they're about to out me to my family. And I see my mom's face, and my mom's just looking at them quizzically. But she's a trooper, and she goes, how do you know my son? And Bruce goes, we've just seen him around. And my mom goes, what do you guys do? And Bruce said, actually, I'm a pyrotechnics artist, and this fireworks display, that's the reason why we're on the ship. And my siblings hear that, and they get so excited, and they're bombarding Bruce with all of these questions. How do you choose your fireworks? How do you set them off? And Bruce is being such a good sport and answering all their questions. And at the end of this conversation, Bruce just looks at my mom and just goes, I just want you to know you have a great son. And Bruce and Lance walk off, and my siblings are still so excited. They're like, those guys, they were so cool. And I thought to myself, they really were. Thank you.
I love that story in both of the class shows we've had with Dave. Dave has this really amazing way of telling a super sexually charged story that ends up being so sweet. And you just feel like you're melting. And when he told it in class the first time weeks and weeks ago, I felt so horrible because he finished and everyone had that kind of oh moment, and there was a lull, and I said, those guys would have had sex with you. I'm sorry. I feel like there's those, I had those gateway gays. They were a couple named Mike and Michael. Mike was butch, he was over 6 foot tall, he had really brown hair, and his boyfriend Michael had frosted bangs and was blonde and worked at a children's theater in San Antonio called Showstoppers. They really did. They did Tits in Class from a chorus line, but it was a 5-year-old girl, so they changed it to Tea and Class. It was like a John Benet Ramsey like nightmare. But they were me and my friend Glenn, they could tell that we were different. And I always remember once, we stayed late to clean up at Showstoppers, and then Mike came to pick up Michael, and they were talking to us, and they gave a very similar sort of if you ever want to talk to someone, I was like, do they want to talk or do they want to talk? I found out later that they wanted to talk. All right, I will leave that alone. I'm actually going to make the right announcement this time. It's going to work. Please welcome to the stage, Deepa Amika.